following show is controversial and contains content you may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Monday morning. Good morning to you. How are you? Hope everything is good with you. I'm Adrian Kennedy. Hope you had a great weekend. Between now and midday today, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, the mid-morning talk and phone-in show for Dublin, by Dublin, and about Dublin. So, what have we got on the programme today? Cheap booze could become a thing of the past very soon. Have you ever been called for jury duty, or did you try to get out of it? I'd love to talk to somebody. I've never done jury duty. I've never even been called for it. And even if I were called for it, I'd probably be thrown out because of the work that I do. But it's something I've always wanted to do. And I want to talk to people who have ever done jury duty, or did you try to get out of it? A little bit later on, we're going to be talking to people who have zero interest in sport of any type. Zero. No interest in any sport of any type. Apparently there are many people like this. Are you one? I want to talk to you a little bit later on. Also a little bit later on, a mother from the Loughlinstown Ballybrack area has been criticised for allowing her 9-year-old to travel to school alone. And we're going to be asking, I know when I was 9 I went to school on my own. Have we become too overprotective in not letting kids walk to school? You see the queues outside schools every day of parents pulling in their cars to let the kids off. I know of one 15-year-old who still gets a lift to school. And we're going to be asking whether or not you need to let your kids go to school on their own. Or maybe you feel that it's just too unsafe to do that. And we've much more besides, including, is it ever acceptable to tell your partner or your friend that they are after putting on weight and they need to lose a bit of weight? You may have seen the video that did the rounds over the weekend. It dates back to 2004, an audition for the X Factor, where they basically told the girl, well, you need to go on a diet, love. That's what they were saying to her. Anyway, is it ever acceptable to tell somebody they've put on weight and they need to lose weight? All that and much more between now and midday today, and live from Dublin City Centre. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy. Now, first off on the programme, I would love to get your, your opinions on this. The government and the Minister for Health, Simon Harris, has announced that he is to push ahead with minimum pricing of alcohol, despite the fact that it's not going to be brought in the north. They were planning to do it at the same time as the north, but because there's no assembly up there at the minute, it's not going to happen up north anytime soon. But the minimum pricing of alcohol is to be brought in here in the Republic. You can walk into many off-licences or supermarkets in Dublin, and when they have special deals on, you could buy a tray of beer for 24 or 26 euro if they're doing a good deal, which is great. However, due to the new laws, you will not be able to do that anymore. Question is this a good thing or a bad thing? Are you a supporter of low-price alcohol? Or do you think that cheap booze is killing this country and turning us into alcoholics? As I said, the big news today is that the government is planning to push ahead with alcohol price increases and bring in laws on minimum alcohol pricing. However, it's feared that Simon Harris's insistence on pushing ahead with the minimum unit pricing here in the Republic could lead to shoppers crossing the border in search of cheap drink. Now, if pushed through, the proposal could see alcohol prices in the Republic raised by around €1 per standard drink. The idea is aimed at tackling binge drinking. And so, for example, you will regularly see offers in supermarkets of 24 cans of beer for 24 or 26 euro. Well, under these new laws, a tray of beer would cost a minimum of about 40 euro. Regardless of what type of beer it is. And I'd love to hear from you on this on 6797981. Should we have a minimum pricing of alcohol? The idea is to stop people buying cheap drink and getting pissed. Regardless of whether it's Dutch Gold or Heineken or whatever, there would be a minimum price on beer, on spirits and everything else. So I want to find out a little bit more about this, and I'm joined by Padraig Crimmon, who is the CEO of the Vintners Federation of Ireland. Padraig, welcome to 98 FM.
Good morning, Adrian.
Padraig, explain to our listeners, if you will, just very briefly, how this works, minimum alcohol pricing.
It's relatively simple. It's the volume of liquid in the bottle or the can multiplied by the strength of the alcohol, multiplied by a factor, and then it's 10 cent per gram. It's basically 10 cent per gram of alcohol in the container. And you're right, I suppose. If you look at the effect it would have, is that your can of beer would be probably somewhere in the order of 170. Your standard bottle of, say, vodka, 700 mils of vodka, 37.5% strength would be around 21 euro. Bottle of whiskey at 40% would be about 23 euro. I think there's a couple of things that need to be said. The first thing is probably that we're dealing here with reports rather than anything concrete. The second thing is that I suspect that the Minister has been very frustrated by the antics of the supermarkets before Christmas, in the run into Christmas, where they were selling product at less than the combined VAT and excise.
So give me an example of what they were doing. I know, for example, I bought before Christmas a 24 cans of Budweiser for 24 euro.
Yeah, and you could have bought them for 20 euro. The most extreme case I saw was a bottle of Captain Morgan that was selling at 10 euro.
Really?
Yeah. Now, if you look at that, the actual excise and VAT on that bottle was 12 euro 30. Which means that before any production cost, distribution cost, marketing costs, etc., there was a loss of 230. And this is something that's slightly missed. The state is actually subsidising that particular price.
How? If a supermarket, let's look at that example of a bottle of Captain Morgan for a tenner. I can hear loads of people saying, wow, that's brilliant. I wish I'd gotten that.
Well, I'll tell you how the state is subsidising it, Adrian. When the supermarket buys that, purchases that from either a wholesaler or from the manufacturer, they reclaim VAT on the price that they paid for it, which we have to assume was higher than the actual price of the excise and the VAT. So they reclaim VAT off the state, but then they pay back to the state the VAT on their selling price, which is less. So in actual fact, the state, you and I, because the state don't have any money if you and I don't give it to them, you and I end up subsidising that. Similarly...
Okay, now that would be a very extreme example.
Okay, well, if you take, for example, I'll give you another example where a major supermarket chain were selling any 6 bottles of wine, you could get an additional 25% off. And on top of that, there was a further 10 euro off if you used a particular voucher. And if you take those 6 bottles of wine, there was a loss to the store, again before excise and VAT, of just under €1. And again, the state would be subsidising that.
Okay, now a lot of people will argue that if a supermarket, and it tends to be primarily supermarkets that are offering these very low prices, if they are doing that, the beneficiary is the consumer.
Therein lies the fallacy. Because yes, the beneficiary of those just buying alcohol is the consumer. But you know, supermarkets in this country are not known for their philanthropy. And what they actually do is they use alcohol as a loss leader to get you in. So you're in the store, but very few people just go in to buy alcohol. And what they do then, to mitigate their losses on the alcohol, is they increase the prices of other more staple products, whether it be milk or bread or nappies or biscuits or whatever. So the supermarkets, they get you in on the basis of the cheap alcohol, and then they actually inflate the other prices so that the supermarket, in an overall sense, don't lose money.
Okay, now you represent the Vintners Federation of Ireland, which is pubs. In reality, will minimum alcohol pricing affect prices in the pubs?
No.
No. Because they're already over that minimum level.
Correct.
Okay. So this is primarily aimed at the off-licence trade to stop alcohol being sold at ridiculously cheap prices.
It's aimed at particularly the supermarket trade. The independent off-licences, in fairness, are very supportive of this legislation. It's mainly aimed at the type of what I would call madness that went on before Christmas. And, you know, the supermarkets are the authors of their own misfortune in this, because I suspect that the minister has lost patience with what he saw over the Christmas period and has decided to act.
Okay, so in reality, in a supermarket, I mean, these are kind of ballpark figures, but in reality, in a supermarket, you would not be able to buy a tray of beer for under €30. In fact, it would be closer to €40. Would that be right?
I think the figure would be about €38 roughly.
Okay, whereas as you said yourself, there was one example of a tray of beer being sold for €20 before Christmas.
Oh, they were widespread. It was 24 cans, or a slab of beer, as they're called, were widespread available at €20.
Okay, so that would be around about the €40 mark going forward, and supermarkets would not be able to discount it down to that level.
That's correct.
Okay, so from the pub's point of view, I assume you welcome this because the off-sales trade and selling beer and spirits at that sort of price has harmed your business.
Well, there's two things about it, and one, the first thing is that, you know, pubs generally only have one product to sell, so they cannot discount that product and put it onto other products. It just doesn't work that way. So what has become obvious is that there's a big disparity between supermarket prices and pub prices. But okay, you're not comparing like with like anyway, because the pub is a total experience compared to buying it and going home and either drinking it in the park or drinking it at home or whatever. So that's a very important distinction. The other thing that's important is that alcohol gets a bad press primarily because of a lot of the abuse of this cheap alcohol. And, you know, publicans depend on alcohol for their living. So they don't want the product getting a bad press because of the kind of antics and actions of the supermarkets.
All right, Paul Cribben, CEO of the Vintners Federation of Ireland, thank you very much indeed for joining us on 98 FM. And I would love to hear from you on this on 6797981. Do you support the minimum pricing of alcohol? What I want you to do is text yes or no to 0877 98 98 98. Now, the government are saying this is nothing to do with revenue, this is nothing to do with making extra money or deliberately pushing up prices. This is to stop supermarkets primarily selling beer and spirits and wines at below cost prices, encouraging people to, as we said, buy 24 cans of beer and get palatically drunk. It would make it a lot more difficult. So the cheaper beer that you can buy for like a euro a can will not be able to be sold for €1 a can. It will be somewhere around 170 or 180 for a can. Let me talk to somebody who is a reformed alcoholic whose voice we have disguised just to protect his identity. And his name is Stan. Stan, welcome to 98 FM.
Morning, Adrian.
Stan, tell me, if you will, please, how much your drink problem was created by being able to buy cheap drink?
When I had my drink problem, cheap drink wasn't really an issue. I'm 8 years off it now, but it was, you could get it anywhere, obviously. Off licenses, garages, supermarkets, shops. At one stage you could ring a fella in the middle of the night and deliver it out to you, you know that, right?
Okay, but one of the arguments here is that we have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol in Ireland. I'm sure you would agree with that. And part of the problem is how cheaply you can get alcohol. I remember reading somewhere that you could get palatically drunk for under a tenner.
Yeah, well, just put the dogs out. Yeah, but it's always been a problem in this country. I mean, we've always associated ourselves with drink. You look at any old films and the old documentaries. I mean, the Americans think we're all a bunch of raving alcoholics. The English, when they do a documentary, it's all about drink. But we've always had it. It's just the culture we've had. Drink is not a bad thing. I mean, if you can control your drink, it's actually not a bad way to socialise. I mean, it's nice to get out with your friends and your people. But some people, it creeps up on them and then it gets to control them.
Okay, but I assume part of the problem is that you can get drunk. You can develop a drink problem fairly cheaply. That's the point, and that's the point behind this law.
I'm glad I'm not drinking nowadays because I've seen the price of it nowadays. It's pretty ridiculous.
But isn't that exactly the point, and isn't that exactly the reason that we need minimum pricing of alcohol?
Oh, you would need minimum price. I don't think garages should be allowed to sell drink. I don't think the local corner shop should be allowed to sell it. I don't think the supermarket. I think it should be in off-license and pubs only. It is a controlled substance. At the end of the day, it's a mind-altering substance.
Okay, so you believe that it's being too free, it's been sold in too many places?
Oh, yeah, you can get it on any corner now, near enough. Put into a garage now and you can get it, you know.
So do you support the idea of having a minimum price for certain products? So a can of beer couldn't be sold for less than roughly $1.70 a can, and that includes when it's in a 24 slab, it's still kind of $1.70 a can. Would you support that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's cheaper to get drunk, to sit in the pub and get drunk than it is to sit in the pub and drink minerals or non-alcoholic beer.
Okay, so you think the idea of having a minimum price for alcohol where a slab of beer wouldn't be able to be sold for less than about €40, you think this is a great idea?
Yeah. Well, it'd probably stop a lot of younger people drinking at an earlier age and then, developing a problem.
All right, stay there for 1 second. Our telephone number is 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. Do you support the minimum pricing on alcohol? I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Now, one of the reasons that the introduction of this has been delayed for the last couple of years, this was meant to be brought in back in 2015, and one of the reasons that it was delayed is that the government wanted to wait until they did the same thing up north and introduced a minimum pricing of alcohol. But because there's been no assembly up north, it hasn't happened up north. So the government have said we're going ahead with it anyhow. Danielle, I'm going to talk to you straight after the break, but you're saying that if this comes in, you'll just go up north and do your alcohol shopping.
Well, I've got family up there, so I'll just grab it while I'm with the family, yeah.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. I'd love to hear from you on this, and we'll take a quick break. We'll take your calls in just a moment.
98 FM's Dublin Talks
with Des Kelly Interiors. Huge January sale now on in all departments.
98 FM.
We're asking whether or not you support the introduction of minimum alcohol pricing, which in a lot of cases won't make a big difference in what you buy in the supermarkets. It would stop, for example, the German discounters selling a bottle of wine for $4.99. They'd have to charge probably €7 or $7.99 for it. So basically, it would stop cheap alcohol being sold. I was reading one example of one of the German supermarkets selling a bottle of kind of own brand rum for €12. Under this new law, that own brand rum would have to be sold for €20. And we're asking whether or not you support this. John, you think it is about time?
Yeah, I actually agree, Adrian. I have to say, I don't always agree with the government. In fact, I have no time for the government. But on this case, and only this case, I agree with them, absolutely. I think alcohol has ruined too many people's lives in this country. People have become too dependent on it. You have a lot of psychological problems because of it. You have a lot of physical problems because of it. And I think it's time now that we did take the bull by the horns and get rid of it one way or the other. Or make a price up that people can't be abusing it and buying cheap alcohol.
And I gave an example of a bottle of rum in one of the German supermarkets being sold for €12. You could get fairly drunk on that bottle if you've got a drink issue. And that bottle would have to be sold for a minimum of €20. So you think that this is good to stop people who have drink issues?
Yeah, and again, Adrian, if you look at alcohol and this cheap alcohol that's being sold, an awful lot of it's sold to scumbags. And if you look at the likes of Ballyferm and all these areas, you're going to have an awful lot of antisocial problems in it. So it's going to create that problem as well. So I think, if you can't afford, if the alcohol is increased, you're going to create an awful lot of medical problems, antisocial problems, and any problem in general. The only people that will have a problem with this is the ones that will abuse it. Anybody else who doesn't agree, who doesn't abuse alcohol, won't really have too much of an issue around it.
All right, so unless you have a dependency on alcohol, unless you're buying the cheapest of cheap beer in supermarkets and whatever, you won't have a problem with this.
I mean, let's face it, Adrian, how many times have you walked into a supermarket and seen, as you rightly said, 24 cans for €1? I mean, who's not going to buy that? Who's not going to abuse that?
All right, stay there for a second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. We gave an example a while ago of a bottle of spiced rum was for sale in one of the supermarkets over the Christmas time for £10 for a bottle. And they would not be allowed to do that anymore. That bottle would have to be sold for a minimum price of around €20. So that would apply to the really cheap own label brands of spirits, the really cheap beers that you can get. It would apply right across the board. Danielle, you were saying that you will do your shopping up north.
Well, you see, I have the choice because I wouldn't personally just drive up north to get a bottle of Malibu, but I have family up there, so we go visit them regularly. I'm 32, I've got 2 kids, I don't have a drink problem, but why would I spend €26 on a bottle of Malibu when I could buy it for £10 on a trip up there and then spend the rest of my money on my kids because I don't drink that often. So when I want it, it's in the past. £10 is not €26.
No, it's not.
No. Casey there as well. Now, I know there's import taxes when there's different, like say wines and stuff, but we had a friend over from America and she was drinking a bottle of wine called Apotic, I think it is, and it's a Californian wine, and I said, how much to pay for it over there? $7. Over here, it's €15.
Which is a bit of a difference, all right.
You know, it's not just alcohol. I know the conversations about alcohol today, but they take the mick and they just rip us off 24/7. So personally, I don't get to drink that often. It could be once every 3 months. Well, there's a lot on this year, but normally I don't have a lot on. I don't get to drink that often, but I would not justify, say, €40. I don't drink beer, but say I did. I wouldn't justify €40 for a tray of beer. I'd rather spend €20 on it if I worked, even £15 on it while I was up north, and then whenever the night arose, that other money went on my kids. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, now that is one of the risks. One of the reasons that the government was holding out on introducing this was because the North hadn't introduced it, and the North were planning to introduce it, but they haven't because they've no assembly and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's not happening up north, but we're going ahead with it here anyhow. So in reality, it will mean that down here a tray of beer will cost €40. Up north, you'll probably be able to get it for £20 or less.
£15.
Yeah.
You get it for 15. Like a litre bottle of Malibu up north where I go, I can get it for €10 or £10. So what are we saying, about €12-13?
Yes.
Down here, if it's on special, I can get a 70 CL for €16, I think it is. But if it's not, if it's full whack, it's between, depending on the shops you go to, but between €23 to €26. Do you know what I mean? So I don't drink that often, so I would pick up a litre bottle, say, every...
And that's even before this minimum alcohol pricing comes in.
Exactly, yeah. So I wouldn't go drink that often. So maybe every second visit I go up, I'll probably pick up one, and I have like 2 in the press at the minute that aren't open. You know, it's not that I need them there, but I wouldn't justify giving them the money for it. If I can and I'm up there anyway, I'd give it to someone else, because I'd rather spend the extra on my kids, because I don't drink that often. Your man said there that, you know, the only people who will have a problem with it were people who are dependent on it. There's been alcoholics in my family. I understand that I can realise, but so can betting, so can overeating, so can everything. You know, it's just for the small minority that unfortunately go through it, my heart does go into them. The vast majority then gets penalised for it. You know, that kind of way. Set up more help centres for them, or more ways to help them, rather than screwing everybody for more money. Do you know, that kind of way?
All right, stay there for 1 second, Danielle. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Michael, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, Adrian.
Michael, you think this is all about money?
Of course, yeah. The publicans don't care about people's health, and the government just wants...
But you see, in reality, it's nothing to do with publicans, because it's not going to...
They're moaning about... They lobby, don't they?
No, they're happy. They're happy with this because it doesn't affect the price of drinking pubs. Price of drinking pubs... won't be affected at all. It's only in supermarkets.
It affects our customers coming in. If they think their customers are getting cheaper.
Well, yes, it does, yes. And that's why they support this, yeah.
So that's what Republicans are full of it. And the government, I mean, we're see, Ireland's a small country, right? We have a small population. And, like, in England, you have 60, 70 million people. And they can afford to, you know, the money they generate from taxes and what have you is far greater than what we generate. So our government put, like, a packet of cigarettes over there doesn't cost £10 the way it does over here. Beer doesn't cost that much. Wine doesn't cost that much. The government and like you have to pay to live in your own house in Ireland, and then you've got the VRT on the cars. You mean you can get a car in England, same car, like a brand new BMW in England, you can get for $4 or $5 grand cheaper. Like we're being ripped off big style out in this country, and I wouldn't mind.
But you don't see this as
but the money isn't coming to us. The money that they take doesn't come to us.
Okay, but you don't see this as a health issue to stop people. I mean, I didn't realise like a bottle of Captain Morgan's was being sold in the supermarket for £10 before Christmas.
That's just Christmas promotions.
Yes,
I mean,
but the supermarkets are going to be stopped doing that. They will only be able to sell that same bottle for €20 or €21.
And then they won't sell it. Only people with good jobs or people well off will do it. And you know, this might sound like a paranoid conspiracy thing to say, but you might drive people to start using drugs or things that they can get on the black market that doesn't cost money to get off their heads. People just want to relax and de-stress, like them. God forbid that people do go down that path, but this is the kind of thing that will do, because people don't have the money to spend on 20 quid on a pack or a bottle of Jack Morgan's. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you think that this is all about money, nothing to do with health. Do you not think that there is something wrong that somebody can get absolutely twisted drunk for less than £10?
Yeah, but I mean, why are they getting drunk? People have been getting drunk since the Viking days. I mean, and they'll be getting drunk 1,000 years from now. You know, as long as you can ferment something, you'll have people getting drunk. Like, find out why people are getting drunk. What's going on in society that's driving people to drink? You know what I mean? Because the government are basically just taking the piss out of us, filling us full of nonsense every day of the week. Same with the media. People are driven demented, and now the few things we get to distress from this, a few beers or meeting your pals or whatever, and they're driving the price out to the roof. Like, you know, I don't know. I'm just ranting. I don't know what I'm saying.
All right, stay there for a second. He thinks it's all about money. One last call on this, and that's you, Billy. You're on 98 FM. You're a former barman.
Yeah, I was 28 years in the trade. I agree with a lot of that chap says. I'm not really a fan of the government, the past governments or the future governments going forward. But you say the publicans can do a lot of stuff. I don't know who's going to recognise my voice now. I don't really care, so probably could be refusing a few pubs going forward. They could reduce the pint. Why is it so dear? Like, if you go out with your wife, yourself, Adrian, how much would it cost you to go out for a few normal pints on a Saturday night? Like, you'd easily drop €150, wouldn't you?
You may do, all right. But okay, this idea of minimum unit pricing is really aimed at supermarkets selling drink at ridiculously low prices.
Bullshit, as the chap said there, it's just bullshit, because they don't want you. Well, I mean, I like going out myself, but the publicans don't want you staying at home drinking a cheap slab. They want you in their pubs where they can.
Well, that's reasonable of them, is it not?
Sorry?
Is it not reasonable for them to want that?
Of the publicans?
Is it not reasonable for publicans to want customers back in their premises?
Oh yeah, but you're going to buy, say, like a slab of Heineken for €20 or 24, whatever it would cost. That's 24 cans, 500 mils. Do you know how much a pint is in the pub? It's $5.50, like. So if I had 24 pints, I wouldn't be able to drink 24 pints. I'd drink, say, 15 on a good day. Say 15, then your 15 pints would be, €75, and the rest. If I drank 15 in the slab, that'd be €24, and I'd still have 7 or 8, 9 cans left.
Okay, but you think that the reason the vintners are supporting this is they want people back in the pubs?
Of course, yeah. And there's nothing to... Adrian, you said there's nothing to do. Why did they have to have it so dear? Like today, as Monday, if we go up to Milo, why couldn't they go down to Milo and they do a special for €4 for a pint, all pints till a certain time? Or there's so many.
Well, pubs still will be able to do that.
But they don't do it.
I know they don't, but they will be able to do that because they still won't be selling the drink for under the minimum unit price. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that we have to accept that gone are the days of very cheap promotions by supermarkets offering drink at very, very cheap prices. Going to have to get our heads around that. I think, as that lady was saying a couple of minutes ago, this is going to lead to a big problem of people going back up north just for alcohol shopping if it remains the case that they don't have minimum pricing of alcohol in the north. Anyway, thanks very much indeed for all of your calls. This is Adrian. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. I was reading in one of the newspapers today. This is a headline in what paper is this? This is in the Star newspaper today. And it says, "We're just glad to be of service." And it says residents of County Monaghan are most likely to do their civic duty and serve on a jury, with more than half of all those called making themselves available for trials. Now, the whole article is about the sorts of excuses that people use, the fact that an awful lot of people don't even bother turning up when they're called for jury duty. Now, in theory, you can be prosecuted for it. In practice, they rarely do prosecute people for not turning up. But here's the thing. I've never done jury duty. I would love to do jury duty, but the reality of it is that I probably will never be called, or if I was called, I'd be dismissed because of the sort of work that I do. Because of the radio work that I do, I would probably not be accepted for jury duty. But regardless, I've never even been called. So maybe on the system somewhere it says that fella works on the radio, don't call him. I would love to know what it's like to do jury duty. Call me right now on 6797981. You can text or WhatsApp us 0877 98 98 98. Have you ever served on a jury? And if so, was it interesting? Was it boring? How long did it take? Were you on any high-profile cases? I'd love to hear from you. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. You can call us on 6797981 because, like I said, I've never even been called, let alone served on a jury, and it's something, probably because of the work that I do, that I'd be very interested in doing. But unfortunately, I probably never will get called. Maybe when I retire or something I might, but before then it's quite unlikely, and even if I were called, I would be dismissed because of the sort of work that I do. Call me right now on 6797981 if you've ever done it. What's it like? Lauren, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Lauren?
Good morning, good.
Good morning, Lauren. You've been called for jury duty twice.
I have, yeah, in twice in 3 years, yeah, I was. The first time, you go, and you have to go for the full week. And I didn't know, I had no excuse, so I didn't think you could just give one, so I went and during the summer or just before the summer, and you go for the week, and you go from 10 until 1, I think it is, and you stay, you get a number, and it's like a lottery. So it wasn't until the very end on the Friday that I got called for a case, and I was called, and the 12 of us sat there, and we went in, then we had our lunch, went back to a room, and then we came back, but the guy then pleaded guilty, so we got to go home then, so we never actually served. Oh, you didn't? Oh, right, okay, because there was a guilty plea, there was no need for the jury then. Yeah, so we were sent home then, which was it's kind of very, it takes a lot of your time, it's very, it's kind of annoying, but my mother was very jealous. She's trying to do it, then the second time I went, and I said, look, I haven't anyone to mind the kids, and they let me go home. It was that easy, so... and
you see, I'd be a little bit jealous myself. I'd love to give it a go. I'd love to know what it's like.
Yeah, no, I was a bit, at first I was kind of I was put out, I didn't want to be doing it. Then when I got on it, then I was kind of disappointed when your man put it, when he gave a guilty plea, I was kind of disappointed because I was getting excited about it, so it was interesting.
And what was the other time you were called?
It was about 2.5 years, 2 years after that I was called, and I had my kids were smaller at the time, and I had no one to mind them, so I just went in and that first day and just said I couldn't do it, I had to no one to mind the kids, and she said that was fine, I could go.
All right, like I said, it's an interesting thing that I've never had the experience. I'd love to know what it's like. Call me right now on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Have you ever served on a jury? Have you ever been called for jury duty? And if so, what was it like? We'll take a quick break. We're back in just a moment.
98 FM's Dublin Talks
With Des Kelly Interiors. Huge January sale. Now on in all departments.
98 FM.
I want to talk to you about jury duty and whether or not you've ever done it and what it was like to do it. Text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. We got this message here, but I just got it actually from a mate of mine. My wife was on jury duty in 2002 for a rape case. He was guilty but got off eventually on a technicality. She was distraught because the same happened to her. So to see him walk free, it hurt her so much. It was very intense and she ended up having to get counselling over it. Wow, that's fairly intense, all right. Tynan, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. Hiya, Tynan.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Now, Tynan, no names about the case that you served on, but you were called for the first time a couple of months ago and ended up on a very long trial.
I did. Like yourself, always wanted to experience it, and was delighted to be called because I wanted to see what it was all about. But I was signed up to a case very quickly. Again, at the lottery service, so you go in on a Monday. You're called when you're called for jury service. You're requested for the week, and you can be called at any time during that week. They're quite strict these days on an excuse to get out of it. Generally, you have to have some sort of you have to either know the person or know somebody who's involved in the case. It could be a police officer, I think, and that's a valid reason to get out of it. But because of work commitments and stuff, that's not really a valid excuse anymore. So they're quite strict on it. However,
so how long was the case that you were on? How long did it last for?
Initially, we were told it was going to be 6 weeks, but it actually went on for nearly 10 weeks.
Okay, and
now.
But again, without going into detail, was it a high-profile case? Was it a very intense case?
Yes, it was. It
right.
was. I think it was fascinating. You do a lot of concentration for the day, so it's a new level of tiredness I've never experienced before. You're literally exhausted by the end of the day. It's quite draining. I was lucky because the jury people that I was on a service with were a lovely bunch of people. We all got on very well, which kind of helps because you are stuck with these people for the entire day, and you're locked away in a room together, and you eat together. So it helps when you do get on. And
in terms of with that case at the end, I assume you were sent off to consider your verdict, were you?
Yeah.
And how does that work? Do you sit around in a room debating it, or
pretty much? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would question about how it made me feel quite uncomfortable. First of all, they swear you in front of the defendant. So your name is out there, which kind of made me feel uncomfortable initially, I have to say. I ended up being the foreman, so my name was used on a daily basis in the court. When the judge addressed you, they addressed me and fellow jurors, but by my name.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is something I wasn't expecting.
I always thought that you were kind of anonymous.
So did I.
Oh.
But you're not. So, I mean, okay, granted, I was the foreman, so my name was used every day. But when you are being sworn in, you are sworn in front of the defendant, and they do hear your name. The case, so how it works in Irish judicial services is the prosecution have to prove their case. And that's what most of the trial will be done with the prosecution, because the defence don't necessarily have to do very much there. It's all down to
yes, I understand. And in terms of deliberating and all of that, was there intense debate, or were you all fairly agreed on it from the get-go? Or
I suppose from day one there was a lot of conflict and a lot of arguing, and it's quite fascinating to how people hear different pieces of evidence differently. So we talked a lot about it, obviously, because you're caught up in the situation. But when we came to actually deliberate, we had made our decision fairly quickly, but it wasn't straightforward. We had a split, and we had to talk it out. Why we were disagreeing and go through each of the relevant points and go back through evidence.
And you said you were the foreman of the jury. Does that mean you had to organise the discussion and chair the discussion as such? Yeah.
You pretty much chair it, and you are the one that will stand up at the end of it. You're the one who signs all the paperwork before you go back into the court when you've made your decision, and you represent. So even throughout, any questions jurors have, they would feed it through the foreman, and the foreman then has to present it to the
right. I'm with you. Yeah.
At the start.
Okay. Now the person involved in your case was. Did you find that person guilty?
That person has been found guilty and is awaiting sentence.
Okay, but the jury found this person guilty.
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's quite scary. You 10 weeks was a long time.
It certainly is.
It became quite complacent. But when it actually comes to you're responsible for sending someone to jail, and you need to be 100% in your head that you're making the right decision. And I don't think any of us on the panel were expecting the level of. But we all felt a bit ill. We're all nervous. We were all quite. The stress levels were quite high on the day.
Okay, so for a big case like that, it kind of is all-consuming, takes up your entire life, basically.
It is. And you have to. The judge will keep constantly reminding you that you need to just base it on the facts that are presented before you, and
not what you're reading in newspapers or anything like that.
We all speculate. We all tend to speculate, whereas you can't speculate of what this may have happened or what might have happened. You have to go based on the exact evidence that's been given to you. So
did you enjoy the experience?
I did. I totally did.
Did you, after doing 10 weeks, were you told you don't have to serve jury duty again?
Yeah, we were excused for life. However, we had the opportunity, because we could still be called, and at that point that we say we've been excused. But if you wish to serve again, we had that option to do that. It was difficult from a work point of view, but at the end of the day, your work can't discriminate against you.
Yes, of course. Yeah. They have to allow you. Yeah.
You have to allow. It was a long period of time to be out of work. However, I did.
But it does sound. Yeah, it sounds fascinating. And like I said, I'd love to do it. I've never been called, and I know if I was called, I'd probably be dismissed anyway because of the sort of work that I do. But I'd love to experience it. Dennis, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Dennis?
Grand. Good morning, Adrian.
Dennis, you were called twice, but never had to serve.
Yeah, I was called back in 2005 and in 1999.
And so is it like that? It's a kind of a lottery as to you get called in, but then there's no guarantee you're going to be on a jury. Sure, there isn't.
No, you're there for a week, and basically, if your number is called, what happens is you leave the room and you go into the courtroom. And this happened to me twice. The solicitors they say objection to the jury, which basically means if you don't like the look of you. So I didn't actually get to sit on the trial.
So they didn't like the look of you?
Pretty much, yeah. It happens to a lot of people. Like, I was young at the time, so they probably just thought, they didn't like the look of me. They objected to the jury, said objection to the jury, they call it, and then the judge...
But that can be based on anything. That can be based, as you said, on they don't like the look of you, or do they ask questions about you?
No, they just straight away say objection to the jury. The minute you walk in, they'll have a look at you and say objection to the jury and say don't want you. The solicitors get the kind of handpick who they want, who they like the look of and stuff. So
okay, so on both occasions they didn't like the look of you.
No, sorry, I tell a lie. On the second occasion, I actually knew one of the accused. I was involved in an armed robbery, so there was no chance of me sitting on that jury.
Right, yeah, fair enough. And would you like to be on a jury? Would you like to actually serve?
Yeah, I would, yeah, definitely. See what it's all about,
All right, stay there for 1 second, Dennis. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Sean, how did you get out of jury duty?
Hi, Adrian. Thank you so much for... I was basically started college. This was about 6 years ago, so I couldn't serve, but I would love to. However,
So why did you get out of it?
Because I started college.
Right. And that was a good enough excuse, was it?
Well, yeah. But during transition year, during on a trip or whatever, as many as you may know, I'm a wheelchair user. I've been on the show many of the time. I couldn't access the viewing gallery, so I sat beside the family of the accused, and it was interesting to experience it. But I would love to be on jury duty, serve jury.
Okay, so an interesting experience nonetheless.
Yeah.
All right, good man. Thank you, Sean. By the way, I often mention to you, if you want to send us a sneaky WhatsApp voice message, maybe you're at work and you can't take a phone call, you can do exactly that. All you have to do is record it on WhatsApp and send it to 0877 98 98 98, like this message.
Morning, Adrian. I was called for jury duty a few years ago, but because I had deregistered out of the system, it came in my maiden name, it's my parents' address. So I just stuck a return to sender sticker on it, sent it back in the post, and I've heard nothing more.
Ah. Anne, 4 times you've been called?
Yeah, 4 times.
And did you serve on any of those occasions?
I did, well, I was picked for 2, I served on 1, and I refused 1 because it was about paedophilia, so I couldn't.
Right.
It was horrible.
Oh, wait, so you can say that you would find...
You can't. They ask you, can you deal with this? It was like, like that, children, and I just couldn't. I looked at, and it was a very high, at the time, it was a very high profile thing. It was all over the news. I was actually on the news in the background.
Right.
Outside the court, and it was, I'm not going to say who it was, but he's dead now, but everyone knew about him. And it was horrible.
Okay, so you were able to say, I don't think I'll be able for this particular case.
I was actually picked for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was picked to be on the... But they say, have you any reason why you think you couldn't handle this? And I just said yes. I just couldn't. But I was on another one, but I was on the jury, picked for jury service 4 times.
4 times? And you actually served on one jury then, did you?
Yeah.
And what sort of a case was that?
It wasn't high profile. We did it for about 4 days, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, it was about 15 years ago, I think, something like that.
And was it a robbery or was it a mugging?
It was kind of like Neighbours from Hell kind of thing, but it was horrible now. It wasn't, but I don't know which was worse, the ones that were complaining or the ones that did the thing.
Right, but a great experience, was it?
Yeah.
Would you describe it as a good experience?
It was very interesting, and it's a bit crazy as well because you meet people from your own area as well there. So you're looking at people and say, oh, there's such a body, it is, and you're locked up in a room, you have to go to lunch, and you're brought over in a Black Mariah at the time, I don't know what they do now, but you were brought over to some hotel to have your lunch, and you're brought back again.
Wow, all right. Well, like I said, it's something I've always wanted to do, but I don't think I'll probably get to do it. Maybe when I retire I might be able to. But anyway, thanks very much for your call, Anne. Fascinating insight into doing jury duty. A lot of messages coming in about it. 6797 981 is our telephone number. And after the break, in a couple of minutes, a mother from South Dublin has been shamed for letting her 9-year-old go to school alone. Wait till you hear this story, and we're going to be asking what is the right age to allow a child to go to school on their own.
98.
Live and exclusive to Dublin's 98 FM, Monday through Friday between 10 and midday. This is Adrian Kennedy. You're with 98 FM's Dublin Talks. And Trish is here with Monday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. A jury has been sworn in to hear the full inquest into the deaths of 5 adults and 5 children at a halting site in County Dublin. They were killed when a fire broke out at the Carrick Mine site in October 2015. A Dublin man with reported links to organised crime is due in court in the UK today on firearms charges. 51-year-old Thomas Kavanagh, with an address in Tamworth, was arrested at Birmingham Airport on Saturday morning. The UK's National Crime Agency says he was arrested as part of an international investigation which also involved Gardaí. Dublin is looking for 24-hour city bus services after Ireland's first went into operation at the weekend. A bus Éireann route in Cork, which runs through the night, has been described as progressive. And we can expect a cold snap later this week. From Wednesday night, temperatures will fall to below normal, with frost expected. And now you're up to date on 98.
98 FM's Dublin Talks. Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
It's Monday morning. Good morning. How are you today? I hope everything is good in your world. I'm Adrian Kennedy, and between now and midday today, this is 98 FM's Dublin Talks, the mid-morning talk and phone-in show for Dublin, by Dublin, and about Dublin. And by the way, if there's anything you'd like us to talk about on the programme, something that's going on in your world or something that's going on in your area that you want us to highlight, do get in contact with us. You can send us an email to dublintalks@98fm.com, dublintalks@98fm.com, or you can send us a private message through our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D. And if you haven't already clicked like on our Facebook page, please do, and join the 102,000 other people who have done the same. Facebook.com/Adrian K and Jeremy D. And if you click like on our page, then you can send us a private message through Messenger, which will get directly to us if there's anything you'd like us to discuss on the programme. Now, I have a question for you, and this is one that causes great debate, and I want to find out how you feel about it. Is it okay and safe for a 9-year-old to travel to school alone? When we were growing up, it was fairly standard. I know when I was a kid, now our primary school was maybe 10 minutes walk from the house, but we went to school on our own. It's never a big deal. As soon as you were old enough to walk, basically, you were sent to school alone. Well, there was no such thing as being dropped to the school gate in your parents' car, when I was a kid anyway. You made your own way there, whether by bus or by bike. But that all changed in the last 20 years, with children being wrapped up in cotton wool and dropped everywhere. But is it safe for a 9-year-old to travel on a bus alone to school? Well, a mother from the Loughlinstown Ballybrack area has contacted us over the negative feedback she's received after she admitted on social media that her 9-year-old daughter goes to school alone on the bus to Bray. Jackie is the mother's name, and here is what she said in her email. And I'd love to hear from you on this on 6797981. I got a lot of backlash over this, and I couldn't believe it. I live in the Loughlinstown Ballybrack area with my daughter, who is 9. She goes to school in Bray and gets the bus alone in the mornings and on the way home. The bus stop for the 45A is 5 minutes walk from our house, and the bus leaves her right outside her school. I mentioned this on my Facebook last week, and loads of parents were giving me abuse, saying that I'm a bad parent and that my daughter is in danger and that I should be going with her. I wanted to give her independence like I had. She loves getting the bus on her own, and all these do-gooders are telling me I'm wrong and that she'll be abducted and must be terrified going to school alone. It's madness. Might make a good discussion. I can't be the only parent who does this. Okay, so that's from Jackie. So Jackie's daughter walks the 5 minutes to the bus stop, where she gets the 45A from Ballybrack to Bray. I'm not sure what school in Bray she goes to, but apparently it is right beside the bus stop. The school is. So the bus stops right outside her school. And she gets off the bus and then she goes into school. So she's walking 5 minutes, then she goes to the bus stop, and then she gets the bus. She's 9 years of age, and Jackie's getting awful stick over this for allowing her 9-year-old to go to school on her own. I would love to hear from you on 6797981. As I said, when we were kids, it was fairly standard to go to school, maybe not at 5, but certainly at 7 and 8 and 9. Now, our school, as I said, was only, but it was actually a longer walk than this young girl is doing. It was about a 10-minute walk from our house. And, yeah, we just walked to school. That's what you did. Call me right now on 6797981. You can text or WhatsApp 0877 98 98 98. Bobby, you're on Dublin's 98 FM. How are you, Bobby?
Not too bad yourself, sir.
Good, thanks, Bobby. Is this lady being irresponsible?
No, she's a 9-year-old today, are well tuned in compared to
we were 8 or 9. I mean, even when I was 6, I'd say I was going to school practically on my own, or maybe my brother was within a year older than me. But I mean, if he was sick or if I was sick, we just made our own way, and we went from Cabra to Phibsborough, which is probably a 3/4 of an hour walk. Like.
Oh, right, from Cabra to Phibsborough, right, okay.
Yeah.
And you walked to school?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you'd always meet your mates, you'd meet somebody, you'd always met somebody going, do you know what I mean? We weren't the only ones going on our own, like, you'd always met somebody, you know?
Now, some people, in fact, the next caller I'm going to go to says times have changed, that the world is much more dangerous now. Do you agree with that?
Well, with the internet and all that, maybe, but I mean, at the same time, the same dangers were there too. Like, I mean, because I remember actually my first year in, we'd say, tech, I was probably about 12 or 11 or 12 when you go to tech first. And I used to get the bus, I ended up cycling because some fella approached me on the bus, asked me to go to the pictures, and I said, hey, good luck. No, thanks.
Right. So that was when you were younger?
Yeah, and that wasn't today or yesterday.
No, and the point being, I have to say, I firmly believe that the world is no more dangerous now than it ever was.
No, but like I said, with the internet, the kids have a lot more access to different things. And
yeah, but that's different to walking to school. You know, when people talk about it being more dangerous, does that mean there's more people robbing children, or...?
No. I mean, when was the last time a child was abducted in this country?
And it's an argument I often have about whether or not it is more dangerous now. But we'll stay there for a second, because, Glenn, you do believe that times have changed, that the world is a more dangerous place.
100%, yeah.
In what way?
Definitely. Look at the amount of paedophiles that are out there nowadays, you know.
Well, you don't think we had them years ago, do you not?
You probably have, but like...
There's no probably about it, Glenn. We did.
You probably did, yeah, but they weren't as in your face as today, you know.
Meaning what? I don't even know what that means. There is in your faces.
Well, we never really heard about them back in the day. Like, I didn't know what a paedophile was at 9 years of age.
But isn't that exactly the point? That we now at least know what they are. We know they exist. Years ago, they still existed. We just didn't know about them.
Well, I have a 9-year-old, and he certainly doesn't know what a paedophile means, you know.
Okay, but does your 9-year-old go to school on his own or her own?
No, definitely not. No.
Is he dropped to school?
Yeah.
And do you ever see a day that he'll be allowed to go to school on his own?
Oh, of course. Well, obviously, yeah, but just not 9 years of age, no.
And what were you, when you were 9? Were you brought to school?
I was, yeah.
Right. So your 9-year-old, how far away is school for your 9-year-old?
Oh, about a 20-minute walk if he was walking, like, you know.
About a 20-minute walk. And the reason you don't allow him to walk is because what? What are you afraid of?
Because the abductions, the attempted abductions that's going on at the moment.
But where are all these? Where are all these abductions?
Well, there was 2 in Temple out there a while ago, you know.
2 abductions?
Attempted abductions, you know.
Yeah. And when was the last time a child was actually successfully abducted?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
That's the point. That's the point. These attempted abductions... I believe are mostly rubbish, that there is no such thing. There was nobody out trying to rob a child. Because, and I've always argued this, Glenn, if there is somebody driving around in a white van trying to rob children, they're very unsuccessful. They're brutal. Yeah. They're brutal at it, because otherwise they'd have gotten a child. So you think that... so what age do you think you would allow your child to go to school on his own?
Probably 14, I'd say, you know.
13?
Yeah.
Okay, now this lady was describing to us how her daughter walks 5 minutes to the bus stop, gets the 45A bus out to Bray, and the bus stops right outside her school. Do you see any problem with that? The child is 9.
He's on his own. He goes to the bus on his own.
She does, yes.
She does, and I don't know what her friends are at with her.
She doesn't actually say it in her message. I don't know is the honest answer to that. But she does say in the message that her daughter travels on her own. So she walks the 5 minutes to the bus stop. She gets on the 45A and she goes to Bray, and the bus stops right outside her school.
No, not a chance would I have it now. Especially a girl as well, like, you know.
What's the risk? What risks is it? What do you?
I'll go back to it again. You know, the amount of, I know there's paedophiles. You're saying there's paedophiles back in the day, and there isn't much as in your face as they are today. You know, like I don't know anything about Arbor Hill, but I imagine it wasn't as full as it was back in today, like as it was back in the day. You know.
So what paedophiles is a new invention, is it?
Not a new invention. No, of course not. No, don't be silly. But The Midlands is open now as well, as part of the Midlands for them as well now. That was never, like, there was never 2 prisons for paedophiles or rapists.
Maybe we're just more successful in catching them.
Could be, yeah. Could be.
All right, stay there for 1 second, Glenn. 6797 981 is our telephone number. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. Is there anything wrong in what Jackie is doing with her 9-year-old daughter? Now, I understand that this has only started since Christmas, so this is how it's become an issue. So her 9-year-old walks the 5-minute walk. They live in the Loughlin Sound Ballybrack area. She walks the 5-minute walk to the bus stop. She gets on the 45A bus and she goes to Bray, where the bus stops right outside her school. And in she goes to school. A lot of people saying the world is a more dangerous place now, that she shouldn't be taking risks like that. Tracy, you believe that this mother should be ashamed of herself.
Absolutely ashamed of herself. I cannot believe that this is even a conversation, you know, that a mother is letting a 9-year-old walk to the bus stop. It's not even that she's accompanying her to the bus stop and that there's somebody on the other end taking her off. But
no, she did say that the bus stop's right outside her school at the other end.
Yeah, but still, though, absolutely. I couldn't sleep. When my daughter walks to her friend's house, now I have 4 children and the youngest is 10. So I'm not one of these snowflake parents, you know. I think kids do need to learn, you know, how to be independent and get buses and stuff like that. Not at 9. Absolutely not at 9. I mean, I think when my kids made their confirmation, that was their first time that I let them get on a bus with their friends, and they went into Liffey Valley shopping centre there, and they went to cinema and they got McDonald's, and that was their first bit of independence. And for me, geez, I was in a sweat. And from then, they kind of built, but not at 9. I mean, my 10-year-old little girl, she's not streetwise. You know, they're not. They're kids. They're babies nearly at that age. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I think that's almost child neglect, letting a 9-year-old get on a bus like that. Just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think there's many other mothers of a 9-year-old girl.
Well, okay, so where do you draw the line? I know when I was 9, we walked to school on our own, and it was...
Me too.
It was, yeah, so what's the difference?
Well, there's a big difference in walking 5 minutes across the road than getting on a bus. I think it's the bus thing, for me, is huge.
But sorry, this child is only walking 5 minutes to the bus stop.
But it's a bus. You know,
what's going to happen on a bus?
It's just not safe. It's too much travelling for a child. It's too much independence. I think my kid now lives 5 minutes across from school, and as I said, she's 10. She will not walk to school on her own. Not a hope in hell will she walk to school on her own.
She won't walk. Hang on, you won't let her, or she won't do it?
I wouldn't let her. And, you know, I don't think she'd even want to.
So hang on. So your 10-year-old school is a 5-minute walk from your house?
Yeah.
And you don't let her go on her own?
No.
Now, do you walk with her, or do you drive her, or what?
Well, we do school trips with parents, so I might walk one day because I'm working as well. So, say 2 days a week, actually, I do take the kids, and then the other 3 days, other parents do take the kids. And we all feel the same. None of us want our kids walking alone. I mean, it takes absolutely nothing for one of us to...
But what's the difference, Tracy, with your 9-year-old or 10-year-old doing it and you when you were 10? What's the difference?
I know we're all going to say that it's, you know, it's a different world now. I mean, when I was 10, that was 32 years ago. And it was a different world.
In what way?
It was a different world. It was a safer world. I know there was paedophiles. I was attempted abduction when I was a child. And it was a big thing at the time. It was on the news and everything. But, like, I know it's just different.
So,
it's huge.
Describe that to me. What happened when you were a child?
When I was a child, myself and my friend were going to one of these sweet shops. You know, the van sweet shops. There used to be a lot of them years ago.
and we were walking back from the shop, and one of the girls, older girls that lived down the road from us, had said to us, "Don't go near that car down there. That man is acting very strange." Now, there was a group of them. There was about 6 or 7 of them. Anyway, he follows up the car really slowly to myself and my friend, and he asked us, did we want to see his puppy? And we were like, no. I'm not sure whether we would have said yes, only for the girls had told us to stay away from him. But anyway, he got the puppy. He grabbed my friend by the hair and started trying to drag her in the car. So I had dragged her away, and we ran into the field. He drove into the field after us. He chased us around trees and stuff. And then we got into another part of the field where there was railings, and he gave up there. I think he probably knew if he got out and started running that, he either would have been faster than him, or, he'd have got caught. But
right, so this is when you were a child.
Yeah.
And the point that I keep making is I genuinely don't believe that the world is any more dangerous now than it was when you were a child.
Yeah, and my mother, after that, she wouldn't let me walk to school ever again. She got up every morning before she went to work, and she brought us to school, and she said, I've been warned, I've learned my lessons, and my children will not be that.
Stay there for 1 second, Tracy. Tom, why are you annoyed by this conversation?
Because it's a load of crap and she doesn't know what she's talking about. You have to give a child self-confidence, and that's the way it grew up. I walked 4.5 miles to school, and so did girls, and you'd see them all maybe 300 or 400 yards ahead of you walking on their own, and walk 4.5 miles back. We had no cars. The mother had no car. The father had no car at that time. And I'm not saying that they walked with us either. We were well able to do it on our own. We actually used to go in. We used to go in. No, not groups, on our own. And we used to even go into the farmer's field on the way home and 10 turnips and get a few bob on the way home.
Tom, do you think we're wrapping our kids in cotton wool here? That we're not giving them independence?
You're not giving them any self-confidence.
Tracy a moment ago said that the mother who sent us this message should be ashamed of herself to allow her 9-year-old walk to the bus stop, hop on the bus and get off the bus and go straight into school.
I say fair play to her for letting her daughter go to school on her own. It's only 5 minutes to the bus and take it across the road. Not at all. She's dead right to give the young one a bit of self-confidence and look after herself.
Okay, stay there for 1 second, Tom, because an awful lot of people disagree. They think you are taking a totally unnecessary risk by allowing your child to walk to school alone. You heard Tracy saying her child's school is only a couple of minutes away. At 10 years of age, she doesn't let her walk on her own. It's an interesting conversation sparked by a lady called Jackie, who contacted us over the weekend about something that she happened to put on social media, and she put a post on Facebook saying how proud she was of her daughter, that since Christmas she's now getting the bus to school on her own and she's all grown up and everything else, but she got lashed out of it for her Facebook post. Jeremy is here with messages coming in on text, on WhatsApp and on social media.
By the way, your school was quite far away from your house, wasn't it?
It was a 10-minute walk.
No, did you not go to Marion?
Oh, sorry, you went to my secondary school.
Yeah, your secondary school. Yes. So you were, what age were you when you joined Marion?
So I started at Marion College at 12, and I got the bus all the way from Ballybrack.
Yeah, and just to put that into perspective, for those of you who don't know, Adrian grew up in Ballybrack, which is, it's on the outskirts of Bray there. And he went to school in Marion College, which is in Ballsbridge.
Yep.
So he went all the way from Ballybrack to Ballsbridge at the age of 11. Yep. How are you still with us? Are you okay?
I'm still here.
But did you have any incidents of...
Well, bar the bullying in school, no. I didn't have any incidents going to or from school, no. Not at all.
Adrian needs to be a little more compassionate, says this message. The fact is that Ireland is a dangerous place for children nowadays. They are not safe alone. There's a lot of messages coming in about this. Okay, here's what we're going to do. People are saying that children are not safe travelling alone, okay? So let's see if we can find, in the last 5 years, is there anybody listening to the show whose child was a victim of an attempted abduction because they went somewhere on their own? Okay? So let's go back 5 years. Let's see how big of an issue this actually is, okay? So we've thousands and thousands of people listening to this show at the moment, and we're simply looking for one parent to come on and tell us how their child was a victim of an attempted abduction in the last 5 years. Do you think we'll get that person? No.
No, I don't. No, I don't believe so. I think a lot of people have seen on Facebook about attempted abductions, but these, I really don't believe that they're as real as people. Because my whole argument has always been on this. These child abductors, they're the most brutal child abductors ever because they never succeed. If I wanted to rob a child, I'd be able to rob a child. My point being...
Yeah, you could just drive into any estate in Dublin and pick one up. Yeah, it's simple. Well, we're putting it out there. We're throwing down the gauntlet. In the last 5 years, is there one parent listening to this show whose child became a victim of an attempted abduction? I have 3 kids, says this message. I'm a working mother of 3. My kids' school is about 20 minutes walk. I drop them in the morning, make sure other kids are there before heading to work. My 11-year-old often asks me, will they be allowed to walk to school? And I've always asked back, what will you be doing? To me, it's just not safe for them to walk to school. That's 11 years of age. Now, you were 11.
Yep.
You walked to school.
I walked to school from the age of about 6.
It's absolutely ridiculous. This is helicopter parenting. For those of you who don't know what helicopter parenting, by the way, is, this is the new term used for parents, millennial parents. These are the parents nowadays who basically hover over their kids and won't let their kids do anything. And Jackie says, this is helicopter parenting. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that parents will not give their kids the freedom that we had years ago. There were a lot more... child abductors around years ago as there are now. We didn't even have a sex offenders register back then. Children are safer now than they were years ago.
I actually believe that. I genuinely do. And we were talking
well, there was no social media 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what's created all this hype about attempted child abductions.
No, but you are right. In my housing estate, the housing estate I grew up in, which was a fairly large housing estate, subsequently I discovered that there were 3 child molesters living in the housing estate I grew up in, and they completely went unnoticed because there was no Facebook, so there was no parents to be able to put up on Facebook and say Jimmy O'Brien in number 20 there is a child molester, and there was no sex offenders register, so these people were able to go under the radar. So of course it's safer nowadays. And finally, it's absolutely crazy what we're doing to children nowadays. They will have absolutely no independence. Parents throw the kids into the car at the door, drop them off at the gate of the school. How are those children ever going to learn how to be alone?
Okay, a lot of interest in this, and we'll take more of your calls in just a moment. Our telephone number is 6797 981.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. Huge January sale now on in all departments. 98 FM.
Okay, we've done a search. We've asked you in the last 5 years, was your child a victim of an attempted abduction? Not one message or call, which proves all those posts on Facebook. They do my head in because of the scaremongering. Let me read this message. I'm so glad you're talking about this, says this message. I've been holding my kids back because of scaremongering. I went from Donnycarney to town at 9 years old on the bus by myself. I was so streetwise and it literally made me grow up. I want to let my kids do the same, but I've been afraid to because of scaremongering. Well, thanks for talking about this. I'm going to let my kids be kids and grow up, says that message. Where am I going next? I'm going to Anne. You're on 98 FM. How are you, Anne?
Hiya.
Good, Anne. What did you want to say?
There is too much social media around all this stuff for kids, and you look at kids today and you don't even come outside the door. You'd see them going to... I've 3 kids myself. One of them actually travelled from Ballymun to Kilbarrack every morning to school. She'd leave here at 7 o'clock, 7:15.
At what age?
She started at 10, it would have been.
Right, at 10. So from Ballymun to Kilbarrack, she got the bus direct, did she?
Oh, she did, yeah. I'd walk her to the bus stop. She'd get on the bus. Sure, all the busmen knew me as well. Then she'd arrive at my mother's house. My mother would ring me and go, she's here, grand, into school she'd go, no bother. But today, it's parents that are to blame for all this. Kids are better off to be walked to school. At least they're getting fresh air in the morning, going into school instead of jumping out of a car. Sure, the parents are in their pyjamas in cars. They just throw them into the car, get them into school. They're sitting in heat all day as well, because the heating in them schools is diabolical. Then they're coming out and the mother's outside ready to collect them and straight back home. It's parents. If you're a kid, you're rearing the kid, so you turn around and you say to the kid, there's your coat, your hat, your gloves, and up the road and walk the way we all done it. And there was people out there looking to take kids when we were all young. We just didn't hear about it because we'd no Facebook. Facebook is to blame. Half the people that actually...
When you say Facebook is to blame for creating hype, yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Cars on the road and people are out with their phones taking pictures of them, and they're probably innocent men and women.
In fact, I only had a guy on this programme a couple of months back who, for work, drives a white van and has had his bloody van photographed because people look at it suspiciously. Ridiculous.
It's sickening. See, it is. It's Facebook is to blame for everything on that. It's including in your house when you have it. Your kids are constantly sitting on, now not just Facebook, I know they're online and stuff like that, playing games. But you look at 20 years ago back, where was kids? They weren't allowed to stay in the home. They were all thrown out at a certain time in the day, and they wouldn't be back in till you hear your mother calling you at the front door.
All right, stay there for one second. Okay, so you think we've become far too overprotective of our children?
Because of social media.
Okay, stay
I
there.
blame the whole lot on that.
You know, I do myself. And it's something I felt strongly about for a number of years, about all these, and people blindly sharing these posts about attempted abductions and all that, just because a white van was in your housing estate.
It's the same thing with, why are kids obese today? It's because they're sitting in houses, eating at their screens, left there for, I can say it myself, my kids are the same. They just love sitting in front of the screen. You call them for their dinner, they want their dinner in front of them. Then they want to just sit there. That's all they do. They don't do anything else unless you grab them and actually throw them out to play the way we were made go out. The whole lot, obesity, kidnapping, everything.
Is all down to overprotective parenting.
That's what it is. They want the kids constantly in the house.
Okay, stay there for a second, Anne. Eddie, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Eddie?
Morning, Adrian. You well?
Eddie, we're being ridiculously overprotective of our children.
Well, yeah, it's a society. I agree with that lady. We are being overprotective. But me personally, I don't have any kids. But I would say, would I let a 9-year-old go to school on her own? No.
Why not?
Well, the other day, Adrian, right, this is a point. I was driving past the school, right, and 2 kids stepped out in front of me with their hoods up in the rain on devices crossing the road. If I didn't slam on the brakes, they wouldn't be here today. Kids aren't switched on at that time of the morning. I'd be more worried about road safety than a bloody kidnapper, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that'd be more my worry.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's a reasonable worry. Yeah, I can accept that, and it's the first. But it's not that the place is more dangerous; it's that they're.
Oh no. That is down to social media. The last kid that was kidnapped was Philip Kearns in '87. That was over 30 years ago. You know what I mean? These are all just white van man stories that we hear. You know, like you said, if I drive a white van. If I wanted to go out now and pick up a kid, I could get one in 10 seconds. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be hard. That's just all bullshit, and it is frightening people. But I just think personally, 9 years of age for a girl,
but your reason for it is that they walk
it's
out.
more road safety. Yeah, they're just not switched on. They're half asleep. Half of them are going around like zombies with headphones on, crossing the road. Headphones on, can't hear traffic. You know what I mean? Or on a phone, walking down the road, not paying attention. That'd be more my worry.
No,
9 years of age.
And I can accept that. I think that's a reasonable worry. This is a message for Anne. Anne, lads, will you please tell that lady, that's you, Anne, that she's an absolute legend. Fair dues to her. Social media has shown us that people are morons when we become a mob. Her kids are lucky to have her. There you are, Anne. Her kids are lucky to have you. They mightn't say that, but...
No, they wouldn't.
Stay there for a second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Carl, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Carl.
Adrian, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Carl. Grant, thank you.
I'd be off that sentiment as well, that it is actually the parents. They've done this over, as I said, through social media and talking, where do you think, there's a gang of Power Ranger pedophiles going around kidnapping children. Statistically, they're usually a relative, to be honest with you. But what they've done is they've made children now, say in the past, say 10, 15 years, that they've no social skills, and two, they've no street smarts. Like, I have an 11-year-old stepson, and I wouldn't let him walk to school, and the reason for it is that he hasn't got street smarts. That's the only thing I'd be worried about. I wouldn't be worried about him being kidnapped or anything like that.
But it becomes a vicious. It becomes a vicious circle, though, doesn't it? That by not giving them a bit of leeway. In other words, this 9-year-old who's getting the bus to school on her own will probably be much more street smart than your stepson.
That would be correct, but even at that, I actually live in Balbriggan, so it would be a 20-minute walk. You'd have to walk through the whole town to get to a school. But you see with other kids the same age, even when they get to teenage years, you'll still see parents dropping their kids to school. Like, I have a big school across the road from me at Ardgillan, and you'll see parents dropping their teenage kids of 15 and 16. Now, you never see kids anymore, even at that age, even walking to school or cycling to school. So it seems to be just a new thing. I remember walking to school when I was in secondary school and kind of when I was 10 or 11. Maybe not 9 or under. I think that's a bit kind of... I don't think they'd know too much, actually, at that age. Do you know what I mean? I think they wouldn't able to know the difference between a bad person or someone who'd be ill towards them. You know what I mean, Adrian?
I know, but I think part of growing up is learning that sort of stuff. Tracy, let me just come back to you to wrap this up. And the argument that we are being far too overprotective of our children today. What do you say to that?
I think we can't be protective enough of our children. I think they're the most precious thing in our lives, and so what if I'm a bit overprotective? I mean, as I said earlier on, I'll actually texted in, this would be a completely different conversation if something had have happened to that girl and her mother let her go on the bus at 9 years of age. If she had been raped or, if she had hurt herself, say she fell down the stairs on the bus and split her face open. I mean, but
let me ask you, Tracy, you were talking about your 10-year-old and the short... How long was the walk to school again? 5-10 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. What could possibly happen to your 10-year-old on that 5-minute walk?
Well, like, she went out one day and she fell and she ripped her leg open.
Sure, that could happen whether she's going to school or not.
I know, but I want to be there. I want to be there for her if that happens. Do you know what I mean? I'm not talking about a man in a van abducted. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I wasn't saying she would be abducted. Anything can happen. And my little girl, she has 2 heart defects, and I will always mind her. Always.
Obviously, you'll always mind her. All parents will do that. But,
you worry about them.
Your argument is, so what if I'm overprotective?
Yes. Exactly.
All right. Okay, Tracy, thank you very much indeed for your call. Let me just read a couple more of your messages before we wrap this up. Guys, women can also be paedophiles. Can you please put that out for a bit of balance? Yeah, okay, if that's important to you. We've just done that. And, another one. Slam the phone down on that idiot. Okay, yeah, I'll do that for you. Now, just one message that's after coming into us, which I'm very happy about. This refers back, this is totally unrelated to what we're talking about here. This refers back to something that we did on the programme last week about long-term unemployment. And we spoke to a company that was trying to hire staff and couldn't get them. Hi, lads, says this message. My name is Callum. I just want to say thank you very much. You had a thing on your show last week about jobs with a property care company. Well, I've been for an interview and I start on Monday. I'm 4 years unemployed. I'm over the moon. Thank you very much indeed, which is very nice. That refers back to a company that we spoke to on air last week. Were explaining to us how they had jobs and they couldn't fill them and all of that. Well, Callum is starting a job with that same company next Monday. I'm delighted to hear that. That's some good news. You're listening to 98 FM's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy, and Jeremy joins me.
Just play the music.
Okay.
Although the music you're playing, these people won't even know what this music is. Sure they won't.
Well, will they? Let's see. Do you know what this music is from? Bam! bam, 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 bam. Now, there is a certain section of society that will not have a clue what that music is. Now, you know what that is, don't you?
The Late Late Show.
No,
of course I know what it is.
Yeah,
that is the music for the Sunday Game, which is the GA show.
On RTE.
On RTE.
Yep.
And then there's an even more memorable piece of music that some people may not know of either.
Okay, and it's this. I was only watching this programme yesterday morning on BBC One. They repeated on a Sunday morning. I was watching it yesterday morning.
Oh, you already know the results of the match.
I know, but I was still watching the highlights of the games. Yeah. Because, of course, this is the theme for the BBC's Match of the Day. Now, we mentioned these for a reason. Two very famous themes from very well-known sports programmes. One British, one Irish. Why are we mentioning this?
This may come as a shock to many of you listening, but there is a high percentage of the population, a high percentage of people listening to this show now who have zero interest in sport. 11%, this is just out today, Adrian, 11% of the population have admitted that they have zero interest in sport. And by sport, I mean any sport.
So 11% of the population have no interest in any sport of any shape, size or form.
It gets more interesting. 7% of people have never attended a sporting event. And I mean any sporting event.
Really?
So obviously there's some people that went to a sporting event that didn't like sport and they just went, like my mate, Kevin. Kevin is a good friend of mine and hates sport. Like, he still thinks Kevin Keegan is a footballer that still plays. No, that's how bad he is. And myself and another mate of mine, we dragged him along to Croke Park a few years ago to watch the Dubs play. And I think they were playing Meath. There was a fantastic match in Croke Park. And Kevin sat there for the whole time on his phone on Facebook.
Oh, he's that little interest. So even when he was present at a game.
And as we were leaving, it was a great out match. Dublin beat Meath. And as we were leaving Croke Park, he turned around to us and he said, "Don't ever bring me to a sporting event again. That was the most boring hour and a half of my life."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Well, we would love to talk to you if you are one of the 11% of the population who has zero interest in any sport of any type, or if you're one of the 7% of the population that's never been to a sporting fixture of any type.
How can you go through life
I don't know.
and never be in a stadium? Or how does that happen?
Like, the highlight of my year... One of the highlights of my year is going to Croke Park during the summer. I just love it. It's just the best atmosphere ever.
You need to get a life. That's the highlight of your year.
You know how good
I know
it is. It is amazing to soak up the atmosphere of a full Croke Park. It's just incredible.
Not if you're not into sport, though. Honestly, Kevin sitting there beside us in Croke Park, and you know how the goosebumps on the back of your neck and the hair stands up when Aaron Levine kicks out and they come out. It's a beautiful thing. And he was there. I suppose we have to stand up for this. I mean, why are the players walking around the pitch? Why are they doing that? Why are they all holding hands?
Okay, if you're one of the 11% of the population who's into no sport at all, or the 7% who's never even been at a sporting fixture, I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. You can text or WhatsApp the programme 0877 98 98 98. Not interested in any sport at all.
Something a bit awry, isn't there?
I think so.
A bit left to centre. If you're not into, I mean, there has to be a sport that you'd be interested in, hasn't there? I mean, there's a sport for everybody.
I would think so, yeah. Call us right now, 6797 981.
98 FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. Huge January sale now on in all departments. 98 FM.
Oh, there we go. This music, I know it's summer.
It gets your juices going.
Oh, it really does. Really, it absolutely does. Yeah. Bam, bam,
Here,
bam.
by the way, can I just say to you, you wouldn't enjoy Croke Park half as much if it became drink-free.
Really?
Yeah. You wouldn't, would you?
I would, yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you go for the popcorn?
I just love the atmosphere of it. I thoroughly enjoy it. But anyway, for matches that you're not at, you watch the Sunday game. But for some people, that music means absolutely nothing, because they are one of the 11% of the population who have no interest at all whatsoever in any type of sport at all. Including Joe. You're on 98 FM. How are you, Joe?
How you doing, lads? How's things?
Hey, Joe.
Joe, you have zero interest in any sport.
Absolutely none. I couldn't even tell you the rules of football or any football sports or anything down that road whatsoever.
Okay, would you like to watch? I'm just trying to think. Skiing or what's it called? You know, the
slalom.
Yeah, the slalom. That's deadly. That is. No.
Skiing, football, hockey, snooker, you name it. I have never watched more than 30 seconds of any of it.
So how do you get your jollies? How do you get your jollies? What makes?
I don't know. I just don't know. I've no interest in any of that. None of it.
No, but like, what puts a smile on your face? What gets your juices going?
I like timber work. I like building stuff, and I'm into hydraulics, and I drive crane trucks and stuff like that. And
hydraulics. So you're into diggers, basically.
Yeah, well, not diggers. I don't drive diggers now. I'm a truck driver by trade now at the moment.
Right.
But I used to drive crane lorries, and I'm quite handy with my hands. I build timber projects, and I raised pigeons. That's what I done for years.
Right. It does
it's not a spectator sport, Adrian.
It is enough.
You can't watch pigeons fly.
Not really, no.
Okay, so
I've never watched more than 30 seconds of football in my whole life. Even sitting in a pub, I've never had any interest. No.
So when it hasn't happened for a long time, but if Ireland were in the World Cup, would you not be interested? No,
I couldn't even tell you the name of a player in the Ireland team.
Well, I think a lot of people would struggle with that at the moment.
Okay, do you own a sports jersey of any type?
No.
Oh,
no. Right.
Never. I couldn't even tell you. I know the Dublin one from just seeing them, but that's it. I couldn't tell you any colours of the other ones.
Okay, so if we were to say to you, what colour is the football jersey for Liverpool Football Club, their home jersey?
Red. Obviously red. Okay. Them two teams, red. United is red as well, is it?
Okay, so
they're the only ones. I've just seen the banter on Facebook.
Okay, so say for example last year, I'm just looking at the television ratings for last year, yeah? The Late Late Toy Show was the most watched programme of the year, but the second most watched television programme of the year last year, nearly 1 million people watched it, and that was the...
That was you on Moore and Doherty,
wasn't it? No,
wasn't it?
It was the Six Nations match between Ireland and England last year on St. Patrick's Day. Now, I watched that. No interest.
None. I couldn't even tell you when it was. I genuinely, hand on my heart, have no interest in any of them kind of things. I couldn't even tell you when they are, what's going on with them. The two biggest teams would be United and Liverpool, because you see the banter going on Facebook.
Adrian.
That's how I know that. But I never even commented on any of it.
Adrian, I don't think he's into sport.
I don't think
I'm just getting that idea. I don't know.
I genuinely no interest. It's just not, and to even sit in a pub and in a football match
did you
stay away from it.
Are you aware that Ireland beat New Zealand in rugby?
No.
He's not into sport, Adrian.
No.
Now, Joe...
I genuinely zero interest. I don't know. I might as well have been... It's like you're just being dropped onto earth right now and you ask me a question about sport.
Joe, I have to say, there's nothing nicer than a couple of mates meeting up. I meet up with a mate of mine once a week and we go and shoot a bit of pool together. Have you ever shot pool?
When I was a kid.
Well,
no, there's no getting through. No. Okay, you're amongst.
I genuinely am zero.
What about Joe? What about even having conversations with friends who might be talking about sporting stuff? Do you not know even how to?
You'd be lost. Talking Chinese to me.
Oh, right, okay.
I'd often sit there with the lads now. Some of my mates are football mad, absolutely football mad, and I'd be looking at them going, 40, 50, 60 minutes of running around a football pitch watching a football. No,
okay, all right, okay, I get it.
The fact that he thinks a football match is 50 minutes long.
Michael.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Michael. You find something a bit odd about people who don't like any type of sport?
Oh, yeah, I'm one of those people that likes every type of sport.
Well, I wouldn't say I like every type of sport, but I certainly have a passing interest in most sports.
Yeah, like now at the moment I'm watching the snooker. Well, not now, but it's on.
In fact, I was watching it yesterday with my mother-in-law. What's his name from the north got knocked out? What's his name?
Dennis Taylor.
No.
Alan.
Oh, yeah, Alan. Yeah,
Mark Allen.
He got knocked out. I was watching that with my mother-in-law yesterday, who loves snooker. But so you think there's something a bit odd if you don't like at least one type of sport?
What I find is people who don't like sport like soaps, and I don't watch soaps. I can't watch them. You know what I mean? And that's what's on. You know what I mean? You get Champions League, if it's on, the soaps aren't on, then the girlfriend's giving out.
Right, okay, but just looking at sports or television ratings for last year, yeah, like I said, number 2, the Six Nations, Ireland, England versus Ireland.
Sorry, what sport was that now? I don't even know what that sport. Rugby, okay.
Number 3 was rugby as well. It was Ireland versus New Zealand. Number 4 was soccer, Croatia versus England. These are all the top 10 most watched shows last year. Number 6.
The most watched football game in Ireland wasn't even Ireland playing.
What match have we played that's worth even talking about? Then number 6 and number 7 were the All-Ireland hurling and the All-Ireland football finals. In other words, people are watching more sport than ever before. Susan!
Love it. I love sport.
Oh, sorry, you love it?
I love it.
Everything and every type of sport?
Listen, I just love sitting down watching the sport. I was the one that brought the kids to their matches when they were younger because their father would have been working. And I love it. I'm going to my next rugby game on the 25th, and I have to say.
Right, so you're looking forward to the Six Nations, for example, starting in a couple of weeks?
God,
yeah. You see, I love the Six Nations myself.
Yeah.
It's rugby, Jeremy, rugby.
Okay, but Six Nations, I presume that's just 6 countries playing.
Yeah.
That can't go on for long, does it?
No, it goes on for 6 weeks.
No, it doesn't go on for long.
6 weeks. It's a brilliant tournament.
Now, Susan, I refuse to believe, you say you love all sport, I refuse to believe that you like darts.
Well, do you know what? My sister loves darts, and I would have watched a bit of it. I wouldn't be overly fond of it, I have to say.
Yeah, no,
I don't get it. I don't.
I don't.
And I don't understand why. I don't know. Have you ever been to a darts tournament, Susan?
No, never.
Because unless you are sitting on the dart player's lap, you cannot see where that dart is going. Like, what is the point you go to it? You see these fellas down the back of the darts hall holding up the 180 signs. Yeah. You didn't see the dart going into the 180.
No, that's what the cameras are for.
But what's the point?
Simon, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Simon.
Hi, how are you?
Simon, you also have zero interest in any sport.
Absolutely. I'm just not following anything. I think, soccer, I think it's 20 idiots running after one ball for 2 hours.
Well, it's actually 22, but yeah, okay, go on, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I like sport.
So
it's so interesting.
So rugby, no. Soccer, no. Gaelic,
no.
Football or hurling, no.
No. I prefer nice classic music. I could listen to that and watch the concerts or good play any day, any time. But sports, no, just not for me.
So you would much rather have a fifth of Beethoven than watch the Sunday game?
Oh, yeah. You can't even compare that.
But hang on, did you get the same thrill out of listening to classical music as I would out of watching Everton play football?
Probably, yeah. I'd say probably, yeah. That will put a big smile on my face.
Sorry, just hang on for 1 second. Hang on.
The emotion of it.
Hang on, I just want to see if this does as much for me as a Dublin-Kerry football match. Hang on.
Oh, yeah. Come on, Beethoven, get it in there. Come on, Beethoven.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, we're different. We're all different people.
So even if there's a big tournament on, or if Ireland were in the World Cup final, would you not even be interested?
I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't follow. Like that's the thing. Like every single newspaper is just onto the sports. I wouldn't even read that. I would just.
So, okay, this year there's a very real possibility that the Irish rugby team could get to the semi-finals or the final of the World Cup in rugby. Would that not interest you at all?
What that means good or bad. As I said, I don't even know. I never watched rugby. I don't know the rules. I don't even know who's on the team.
I'd say you're great crack in the pub on a Saturday night, though. Hey, that's great fun.
Probably, yeah. Talk about the Beethoven and Mozart.
Jay, finally, you think there's something odd if somebody's not into any sport at all?
Adrian, that fella's serial killer.
Serial killer?
98 FM will not stand over that allegation at all.
Alleged.
Weirdos. Absolute weirdos.
There's a lot of them.
Especially a man. I can't trust any man who has no interest in sport. It's just weird.
Yeah, I have to say, I've always found it a little bit odd that nothing in the sporting world floats your boat at all.
Like
nothing
even
whatsoever.
Beach volleyball.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how could that not float your boat?
What?
How could that not float your boat?
more than your boat, wouldn't it? Yeah.
All right, thanks very much, DJ. We've been flooded with messages from people.
This message, there's only one sport I'm into. Does rowing count? No, rowing is not a sport.
Well, it is a sport. I know it is. It is, yeah.
What?
Yeah, of course it is.
It's a sport.
But Yeah, of course it is. It's in the Olympics, for God's sake. The lads from Cork won gold medals.
The rowing's not a sport.
Anyway, thank you very much indeed for all of your calls. This is 98 FM's Dublin Talks. We're back with you again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Barry Dunn is next. And in the next hour, he's got some great music lined up like these.
FM's Dublin Talks with Des Kelly Interiors. Huge January sale now on in all departments. 98 FM.